some people, they get excited to hear that I was on a 1966 TV program in New York City with various well-known scientists, including Dr. Carl Sagan, and that's always exciting. But also, the real pleasure for me is working with people who have had the ET encounters and who are willing to discuss the implications. Just for example, most recently, I've been corresponding with a woman named Trish Gullett, who lives in Florida, and she's writing a book about her experiences. And Dr. Evelyn Fuqua is writing another book about her experiences. Probably that'll be published this year. Her name now is Evelyn Fuqua Cook, and the book is Cosmic Relationships. Some people, of course, are not only puzzled by their ET encounters, but they're also frightened or angry. I remember years ago I was working with a woman who was describing during a hypnosis session her memories of being on board a craft and being poked and prodded by the examiners. And when she came back to the normal state, she looked at me with fear in her eyes. She said, "Leo, do you think you're going to come and take me away?" And I said, "No, I don't think you'll be that lucky. I think you'll have to stay and work like the rest of us." And she kind of laughed because she realized after some years that the examination or the encounters are not the important work. Just like someone who goes to basic training in the Army, the encounters with the medics or the encounters with the training staff is not the important work. Sometimes recruits think that the sergeant is giving them a bad time, but that's just to prepare them for their work. And so my own view is that many people go through what they feel is the rough stuff is actually a training program.
Interesting thought. Yeah.
And when they learn that, then they can realize it's a long-range process, and some people feel like it's been a many-lifetime process, that at the soul level they remember having come from other planets, other civilizations, coming to Earth, living several lifetimes, and then helping humanity to get to this point of transformation. This is an important year, according to many people, because they feel like it's an end of the old age and the beginning of the Aquarian age. It was my own experiences. As a child, I had encounters, although at that time I wasn't sure exactly what was going on. It was when I was a 10-year-old kid in 1940. I didn't know if these were dreams or on-board experiences. So as a psychology student, well, I thought, okay, maybe it's just a dream, but I'll learn more about it. Then when I was a college student, a buddy and I saw a flying saucer in 1949 at the University of Colorado in Boulder. I've been skeptical about people who in 1947 were claiming sightings, and the Roswell incident, I wasn't sure about that. So my buddy and I, after we listened to a visiting professor talk about general semantics, or the way scientists talk, we were playing a game. We say we were walking along the campus. We'd come out of the Arts and Science building, and we were playing this game of visualization and naming what was going on. They said, "What do you see over there?" "Well, I call it a tree." "Well, how do you describe it?" "Well, it has a trunk, it has branches, it has limbs, it has twigs, it has leaves. I think it has roots, but I can't see them because they're underground." And so we were being little scientists in our minds. And then we looked over to the southwest corner of the sky, and we said, "What do we see over there?" Well, to me it looked like an elliptical object. It didn't look like an airplane or a balloon. In the setting sun, there was a reflection on the edge of the object. I didn't know if it was the glint off the sun or if it was an internal locus. He and I talked about it, Joe and I, but we didn't really want to talk to anybody else because seeing a flying saucer, that was weird. We estimated that it was about the
We all dream of falling asleep quickly and having a full night's sleep. Try Nital. Nital helps you drift off gently and helps improve quality of sleep. Take Nital for just a few nights to help get your natural sleep pattern back. Say good Nital and wake up feeling refreshed. Nital 1 a night 50mg tablets contains diphenhydramine hydrochloride, an aid to the relief of temporary sleep disturbances. For further information, ask your doctor or pharmacist. Always read the leaflet.
Size of the apparent size of a fingernail at arm's length. And of course, this is the typical view that people have, something about 500 yards away, so that skeptics or people who weren't there can say, well, you misunderstood, or you're crazy or whatever. So I didn't want to talk much about it, but in 1956, my wife and I was a graduate student after coming back to Colorado from Germany in the Army. My wife and I saw a light over the Flatirons, or the Rocky Mountain foothills. That was in 56, the summer. It looked red and glowing, and then it began to move. So I stopped the car, we got out. We watched while the light or the object or whatever it was apparently descended, because now it was between us and the Flatirons, whereas before I thought of it as an evening star or a planet. We watched for several minutes in the dusk as the object would hover, and then it would move, and then it would hover, and then it would move. And I saw car lights down below. I heard horns. I assumed other people were watching what we were watching. And so I said, okay. As it disappeared to the north, I said, tomorrow I'll read the newspaper or listen to the radio, find out what it was. There was nothing on it, and I had a sinking feeling in my guts that, uh-oh, this is important, and I'm going to have to study the phenomenon, but it's going to be lonely business, because I knew that after 2 sightings, I could no longer claim that I was mistaken. It was something that was true, and then, of course, my childhood memories began to wander, and so many years later, after I learned hypnotic techniques and finished the doctoral studies, many years later, I asked a psychologist to help me go through. So age 50, I finally went back to age 10 and learned I was on board a craft, and the tall guy on my left was saying to me, Leo, learn to read and write well. When you grow up, you can help other people learn more about their purpose in life. And so that became my guideline, not only helping people come to terms with their UFO experience, but also come to terms with whether they wish to talk about it publicly or whether they don't. And that's why we developed, finally in 1980, a conference where people could come and not only listen to, quote, experts, unquote, but listen to the true experts, the people who had had the experience, so that they would be given an opportunity to stand up before other people and talk about their experience. Well, for many people, it's the glory of seeing an object, shining lights and meeting the ETs and so on, but for me, it's the effect upon the people. Just for example, Ida Kannenberg, she's deceased now, but she was in her 80s when she was writing several books. She wrote a half a dozen books about her experiences, including one called How to Deal with Your UFO Alien Encounter. She was a quiet lady, but she was also tough-minded. When she first started talking about her experiences, she would kind of kid herself. She felt like she was being observed, monitored by extraterrestrials. And so when she'd take a shower, she'd close her eyes so they couldn't see what was going on. And she complained about their intrusiveness in her life. She wasn't one to take things lightly or to be dismissive of herself. She was willing to argue with the ETs, but after a while she found out that she was serving as a messenger. And that's what most people, if they stick with it, some people say to hell with it, and they either go crazy or get drunk or don't talk about their experience. But if a person will stick with it, then eventually they'll find out that they are not only coming from a family of experiences, but also finding out that they have some kind of a message. Now, it may be like one woman who came to our conference. She sat there in the back and didn't say anything the first year. The second year, she timidly spoke about her experiences. And then when she left, she and her family had a UFO flying saucer right overhead of their truck when they went back to Colorado. Third year, she came back, and she was...
At Tesco, we've price-matched Aldi on hundreds of products, and that includes loads of branded products too. Like Barry's Gold Blend Tea 80-pack, Brennan's 800-gram sliced bread, and Kellogg's Cornflakes 1 kg. So, you can save yourself a trip. Tesco. Every little helps. Shopping took place on the 10th of Jan. Price checked and matched on comparable products from select Aldi ROI stores and or online weekly. Price most often found is matched pro rata and excluding promotions. Products matched may vary by week. Product availability varies by store. For verification, see tesco.ie/groceries.
Now, a little messenger in her community. She'd have a coffee hour, and people would come and sit in her kitchen and talk about their experiences. So it wasn't a big deal as far as, writing a book or going on TV or whatever, but it was served as a communication center for her neighborhood. So some people feel like they have to talk to others. Some people feel like they serve as a parent or as a teacher or a nurse. Most people are concerned about the planet, the environment. Most people seem to be concerned about animals and plants, but the main theme seems to be one of serving others. I've heard various theories, and I've worked with various people. As you know, when you were living in Laramie, Pat McGuire had mutilation at his ranch. I remember that year that I met Pat McGuire. I had been asked to go out to Nevada and talk with a man who had strange encounters, and also work with other people. And then I came back, and right here in Laramie, it was one of the most interesting cases where he was describing what was going on in his ranch. So I called him, and we made arrangements for me to go out there and talk. It's a puzzle, like most things, the crop circles, the cattle mutilations, the psychic messages. Some people wake up the same time each night or early morning as their encounter, and it's a question mark about what is the basic theme. For me, the two basic themes are good guy, bad guy, or good cop, bad cop. The one theme, good guy, bad guy, means that there are ETs who are employing some of the humans to serve as the bosses of the rest of us, so that there's an elite, whether you think of them as money or greed or political control, who are in charge of the planet and keeping the rest of us as prisoners. So that's some people argue that point of view. So that there's a battle going on between the good ETs and the bad ETs, and the question is how will that turn out. The other scenario, which intrigues me, is the good cop, bad cop. If, for example, I got a letter from a man recently in a Midwestern state, and he was telling me he appreciated my willingness to correspond with him, and he thanked me for sending him some materials. But he said he wouldn't agree with me about the ETs. He said, if you think of a neighbor coming in to your home and abducting him and examining him, well, that's not a good neighbor. That's hostile. So when I wrote back to him, I said, well, let's look at another scenario. What if I'm a patriarch and an extreme patriarch? What if I have guns and drugs? What if I'm not only protecting women and children, but what if I'm possessing women and children? What if I am exploiting animals? What if I am living in a house that's got polluted air, and now I'm gasping for breath, and my neighbor comes over and applies CPR? Is he helping me or is he hurting me? And comment on it. But this scenario would suggest that ETs are a mirror, so that they are mirroring who we are. we're the ones who have guns and